Code monkey, get up, get coffee. Code monkey, go to job. Code monkey, have boring meeting with boring manager Rob. Rob say code monkey very diligent, but his output stink. His code not functional or elegant. What do code monkey think? Code monkey think maybe manager wanna write login page himself. Code monkey not say it out loud. Code monkey not crazy, just proud. Code monkey like Fritos. Code monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Code monkey very simple man. Big warm fuzzy secret heart. Code monkey like you. Code monkey like you.
What's new, Dino Dudes? It's me, the Media Raptor. Let's talk about something odd, you know? Let's talk about something strange. I have nowhere further to go with this joke. Stranger's Wrath. Oddworld is Stranger's Wrath. It's a 2020 port of a 15-year-old game on the Switch. So for those of you who are unaware of what this franchise is, welcome to the club. I have never played an Oddworld game before this one. In fact, I had never even heard of Oddworld until about 2 years ago when I started watching Kid Icarus, and he did a bunch of episodes on it. Even then, considering the fact that I've been playing PlayStation for over a decade now, I've never played one. I didn't get new and tasty on the PS3, I never picked it up on the PS1 because I never had one, even though I do have a PS2. Never played Munch's Odyssey. Stranger's Wrath originally was meant to be an Xbox exclusive that got ported to the PS3 through limited run games, the PS4 as well through limited run games and digital sales, the Xbox 360, obviously, PC, and, well, the Switch. And yeah, you could buy it digitally, but I always prefer having a physical copy of something over a digital copy. That's just my opinion. So, this game's awesome. It has flaws, but this game is awesome, I'll tell you that right now. And the main reason for it is the world. The Oddworld, if you will. I don't know in the Oddworld timeline of like Abe's Exodus, Abe's Odyssey and all that, where this one lines up with the others. I believe it's somewhere in the middle of those two games, maybe. But the story, the characters, and the world is so unique, creative, and awesome looking that it sucks you in from the word go. Just look at this footage I recorded. This world is unique, detailed, vibrant, beautiful, yet somehow dirty, ugly, and yet welcoming all at the same time. They absolutely nailed the Old West theme, the kind of modern, apocalyptic Western feeling. And frankly, I'm just gonna say it, Stranger is now one of my all-time favorite video game characters, period. His voice, his design, his weapons, his story, which I'm not going to spoil because it's amazing. Everything about this guy, I love. Especially because, you know, he's a one-line slinging bounty hunter. Those are two awesome things brought together and made even more awesome. Although, every now and then, one of his lines does kind of cross a line I was surprised they even crossed and got away with in a teen rating. Okay, maybe it's just this one, but still, listen to this.
You enjoying smacking my boys around, stranger?
Well, it's not quite the party you and Blister's booty gonna have. Smacking it up in that cozy jail.
Blister's booty? Oh no, I ain't going back in the cell with him. Oh no, I got dignity. I ain't going back, never going back. I got dignity. You do not want to know.
If you don't know what that means, I'm not going to explain it, and frankly, yeah, I think that's hilarious, but I'm not going to explain what that means. So, the story is a really good story. Well, that's redundant. Sorry, let me try that again. The story is unique, captivating, interesting, and told in an interesting way because we get the story set up at the very beginning, and then for about half the game, the story's done. You don't really pay attention to it. You just do the levels, which each level is a bounty hunt, which I think is a fairly interesting way of doing it. This therefore means most of the characters don't get a whole lot of development, especially the characters we're going after, aside from the brief introduction we get when we pick up the bounties at the bounty store. But this isn't really a game that needs like 20-page backstories for every single character. Although the villain that shows up partway through really could have done with some more backstory, especially because of the big twist at the end. Yeah, they didn't really explain it that well. In fact, there's quite a bit about this story, namely the character of Stranger himself and kind of the world he lives in and certain aspects of it, that they just did not explain, or explained very briefly, and I wish they explained more. Also, I'm not going to say what the ending is because it's serviceable, but the ending is very disappointing. And I say that as a good thing because, believe me, the build-up to it is awesome. The final boss is one of the worst final bosses I have ever seen, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But the ending, it feels like they're trying to be like, did you see that? This is what we've been building to. It's amazing, but it's more like, wait, we didn't set this up. Quick, look at that. Hey, okay, done, bye. Okay, not exactly, but it feels like that. Especially because this is one of those games that doesn't have a replay ability, sort of, like where you can go back and kind of redo levels. Especially once you're playing the story, you can't go back and redo the bounties with your newly equipped gear, which makes sense because this very much is a story-driven first-person game. So that doesn't make a lot of sense, but there isn't like a New Game Plus or anything like that, which I think would have been a lot of fun. Let's talk about the main aspect that people will want to talk about, the gameplay. Stranger's Wrath is an odd game because it's a mixture of third person and first person, and I'm pretty sure everyone's talked about that, so let's talk about if it works or not. It mostly does. In third person, Stranger controls extremely well. His fist attacks can be a little weak, but they do get upgraded as the game goes on, so that's a natural progression. And above that though, my biggest issue is, well, he can move pretty fast. When you're in first person mode, you move extremely slow. Now maybe this has to do with the sensitivity controls not being turned too high or too low or something like that, but you move rather slow when you're aiming with the crossbow weapon, and it's very slow to turn and very slow to move, which can be an issue when you're trying to fight your way through a base because, you know, your plan to do this stealthily went wrong and now you're kinda SOL. Something else to mention, this is not a, like, Call of Duty first-person shooter. If anything, it wants you to play it like Metal Gear Solid. Strategy, stealth, and silence are the three main S's you're gonna need to succeed in this game. It's kind of like Arkham City and Arkham Knight, where you have to try and take out a base full of people without being caught. It works mostly, but it does get annoying at certain times because some enemies just have super powerful weapons, and if they see you once, you're pretty much dead and have to start over. Some bosses essentially have a one-hit weapon when you're barely allowed to damage them, and capturing bosses is much more difficult than it should be because, well, the easiest way to defeat them is to kill them, but you don't get nearly as much money as you do, or moolah as you do if you capture them alive. So it kind of means you have to strategize a bit and try and figure out what's their best weakness, what's their best strategy. And then there's these things. These things suck. I hate them. They are the most annoying, obnoxious, and painful enemies in the entire game because they're broken. The second they touch you, you're dead. There is no getting away from it. The second they touch you, unless you're able to damage them enough to chase them off, you are dead. And the fact you have to fight two of these things as pretty much as the final boss is not fun. It's barely fair, and it does not feel like a satisfying boss battle. It's not a combination of your training, your skills, and your weapons. It's just, okay, these two types of weapons, the bees and, well, I went with the bees and the thud slugs, but it could be the bees, the fuzzles with the bees, and the electroshock bugs. Just never stop firing them and run for your life. There's no real strategy in it. It's just shoot them until they go down, then on to the actual boss part, which lasts all of about 2 minutes if you know what you're doing. Yeah. Considering the entire game builds up this really great progression of ramping difficulty that at certain times can be extremely difficult and almost unfair, but then makes you feel amazing when you actually overcome the challenges, it's just disappointing that the ending is so obnoxious, so unfair, and just kind of leaves you going, I went through all that for that? But that's kind of a fair complaint throughout the entire game, is certain sections the difficulty will just spike unfairly. Now granted, part of that is if you go in headstrong you will die, and that can be an issue, is going in headstrong can most likely get you killed. So they want you to think, they want you to strategize, they want you to set traps. But then the locations you find yourself in, the enemies often don't walk in the pattern where setting those traps is a actually decent idea, and then when you try and use the lures, they'll see you or your traps will be sprung too early. It's just, to me, the game was a whole lot of trial and error. It was fun though, and I had fun playing it, so I certainly can't blame it on that, but at certain points it does not feel like a fully fair game or like it was fully balanced, if that's a fair thing to say. But I love the idea of using a crossbow and living ammo. I think that's a really cool idea. I like the idea of having to not just go running in head first. I like the fact you actually have to strategize and think, and then towards the end you're allowed to be a bit more aggressive, even though you have the armor to back you up. It feels like you've actually progressed throughout the game. At no point do these levels feel like they're just fetch quests. Each of them feel unique, original, interesting. My only other big gripe with the game is the character design, because it's kind of the same thing over and over. Stranger looks very unique, Secto, the main boss, looks very unique, but then the enemies are kind of one of four types. You got the lizards, the chickens, the weird lizards, and the skinny weird lizards. I kind of hope that as you went to the different towns you might see something different, but who knows, maybe this game didn't have the biggest budget. And you know what, it is 15 years old. The fact it still looks this good after being translated to HD and then put on the Switch, I'm not going to complain. Something else that really helps the game is Stranger's voice. I love the guy who plays Stranger, and I forgot to look him up, but then this does lead to a weird technical issue. A number of times, these subtitles and the spoken dialogue are not the same thing. And not like they said, I ain't, and then the subtitles say, I'm not going, or something like that. Like, entire sentences are different completely. Like this, for example.
You gonna run this sky cart for me?
Yeah, just get on it. I hope they kick your ass.
You gonna run this sky cart for me?
Yeah, just get on it. I hope they kick your ass.
That happened a number of times and was very weird to see, especially in a game that had been, re-released and remade for the Switch. You'd think they would have fixed that kind of stuff. Or maybe it was a glitch on my end. Who knows? Something else I do really like about the game, like I've talked about, is the graphics. They look pretty good. The world is unique and interesting. The controls are pretty good. They can be a little annoying, and I feel like this is a game that's much better if you have a Pro controller or even just a wired controller. But, yeah. Either way, Stranger's Wrath is a unique experience, and I had a ton of fun playing, and will definitely play again. But there are some serious issues concerning the story, concerning the gameplay, and at times the difficulty. Because of that, I can't give it a 4 Raptor Claw out of 4 rating, but a very solid 3 Raptor Claws out of 4. I loved this game, and I was really hoping I would after seeing videos, reviews, and little bits of gameplay. If you have a Switch, this game's only like $30. Pick it up, you might really enjoy it. I don't like stealth games at all, so really you'd think this would be the kind of game they'd want to like, but then would end up hating like a certain other game that had a terrible ending that ruined the game. High five! No. If anything, this made me hope that they port the other Oddworld games onto the Switch so I can then play them. It also makes me really wish we got a sequel to Stranger's Wrath, because I feel like the dissatisfying ending was trying to give a sequel hook, which then sadly never happened. Even like a Stranger's Wrath comic would be amazing. I really feel like there's untapped potential with Stranger, and I just really want to see more of him because he's such a cool character. Anyhow, check it out if you haven't. I thoroughly enjoyed it despite its few technical issues, and that's all the time I got for this review. So, Until next time, this has been the Media Raptor saying keep cool, and as always, I will see all you dino dudes around. Later.
I'm taking you in. Alive or a corpse. It's your choice.